Jesse, come in mid-meeting or at any point if he does show up, right?
You can come in at any point.
Not till Friday night, so hopefully. All right, I will call this meeting of the Dalton Township Planning Commission for December 20th to order at 6:04. Meeting roll call. Dave, I'm here. Jesse is not. Lee? Here. John? Here. Casey?
Here.
Todd? Here. And Kevin? Here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Approval of the agenda, anything to change or add for tonight?
No.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of the minutes. Take it I am acting secretary until we make our vote.
We will elect a secretary during new business.
It has me down here as secretary on.
Oh, that's for the ZBA meeting.
Oh, okay. We need to do those separately to the approval of the minutes and the resolution, correct?
You can do them together.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for November 29th and resolution SU 22-08.
Support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Now move to public comment, which you have 3 minutes if you would like to, we have our public here. Anyone would like to make a comment?
We have no comment, but we have some questions about getting some property zoned commercial. So when would we bring that up?
Good.
Right now?
Right now.
Well, I just purchased 38 acres, 38.66 acres on Russell Road. And I would like to get 8.66 acres of that zoned commercial. This is, I don't know if I'm doing this right now, but this is for the new constructions on Russell Road there by the McCormick's gas station. One copy right there. That's to say. And that's about approximately what I'm requesting is about 400 feet of road frontage and about 871 feet deep. Yeah, I've never done this before, so I don't know how I go about requesting to be zoned commercial instead of agricultural. Right now, the 38.66 acres is agricultural. And
This was behind Tuttle's property in the Pines, is that where we're talking about?
yeah, this is the new construction right here.
Yeah.
That's the new house being built right here.
Construction.
So if you look at this way, you'd be heading north a little, you'd be heading north on Russell. So this right here, because this is the new construction and this is the 48 or 38.66 acres right here. So how do I go about requesting permission to get this on commercial?
I can answer that. You would need to apply for a zoning district amendment.
Okay.
We have an application form.
Okay.
I can get you a copy of that. And go to the planning commission for a public hearing.
Okay.
And then if it's approved by the planning commission, it would then be forwarded on to the township board. The township board would vote yes or no.
Okay.
And then it would be adopted as a ordinance rezoning the property to building a new house. And
Get the application today then?
yes, I can get you that
This is the
information.
multi-intersection of Ivy Thompson that includes down there.
Yeah. Could you state your name?
E-R-I-K. Holm, H-O-L-M.
Okay. Right. We'll get you that application.
Right, and then I think the other 30 acres, we're just gonna leave it for fund property.
So
that was Creasel's?
It was crazy, yeah.
Gotcha.
I leased it from him for many years because I drove by it, probably 8 years ago, and nobody's hunting it, so I got a hold of him. He was always our garbage guy and stuff, and I asked him if I could lease it, and he's like, sure. So I started leasing it, and then he's trying to get out of the whole garbage business right now and retire because he's like 72 or 73. And so yeah, I bought the property recently, and I think he's got another 20 acres he's gonna try to sell here soon too.
Here's your
So
location and my card if you have any questions.
Oh, I talked to you the other days.
they just want to get out. They're getting old, and
This map, this is Russell and then probably Riley Thompson pretty much.
yeah, Ross Thompson's just up there by the GIS right there, just a
Yep.
little bit farther right there. Yeah. It
Okay,
used to be an old hayfield. Back in the day, Creasel and his dad used to cut hay out there, and they stopped doing it, so it's been overgrown for the last 25 years right there.
Plan for the commercial section.
Well, I'd like to put up some storage units right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the plan. I think it'd do good, and I think it's a nice location for a storage unit building right there, so that's eventually would be the plan right there, is put up, probably start with about 200 units and go from there, depending on what it can hold, because a lot of it would, some of it would be for like outside storage for campers or boats and stuff, because there's Michigan's Adventure right there, or Duck Creek RV Park. Has a lot of campers and stuff, and if you park your camper at Duck Creek RV Park, they charge you to leave it there all winter long. I don't know what the rates are, but, so yeah, some of it would be for, storage units and some would be outside storage too. So that would be the plan.
And all along that, is that zone currently right now, I was trying to think on.
Agriculture right now.
Yeah, it's all
Okay, it's 402 property class, which I think is ag. It's been that way for years, yeah, as long as Mr. Creasel's dad owned it and then he owned it, so. It's pretty much it's just shy of 40 acres, so it's pretty much a square 40, but the reason it's not a square 40 is because that house right there, there's a little house right there that, yeah. I don't know the address, I didn't look at it, but if that house wasn't there, it'd be a square 40, so. And I think I just got a letter in the mail here the other day about the tunnels. Is that the tunnels building right there?
Yes.
They wanted a little bit larger garage, I think, attached garage or detached garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attached garage.
One of the things that, as part of that process, we have we do a public hearing and what have you. The neighbors, anyone within certain footage, so that person like at that corner would be a person that would come to the meeting with some input. So it helps to be the good neighbor to start to maybe explain, here's what I'm thinking. Because usually when they get hit with it out of the blue and there's no one there to say anything, everybody goes, not mine, And it becomes personal. And again, storage units are pretty passive. It's not something,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have,
Traffic,
mechanics and things, you're not gonna have sounds.
low key.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what they're gonna see if anything starts getting staked as you go through the process, they're gonna go, what's going on there? It just helps to.
And if it does get, I'm sorry, just dragging out for more than 3 minutes, but if it does get approved, I'd have to bring the property up a little bit, because I'd have to bring it up at least a road level. So I'd have to go for a pond permit, also dig a little bit of sand on that property and use some of that fill sand to raise up the property where the storage units are gonna go. Because right now it's a little bit low, so I'd have to raise up like 3 feet. Instead of trucking the sand in from like McCormick's for Jesse or like excavating, I'd probably be better off just dig a pond myself. So I need a pond permit like that too, which would probably be maybe half an acre or 1 acre pond at the most. And there'd probably be, I dug one in Fruitland here a few years ago, and probably have to do the whole 3-to-1 slope and whatnot for somebody falls in there and can drown and can't walk out of it and stuff like that, so.
We're having conversation about that very topic a little later tonight, about the process of ponds, yeah, and what's allowed to be done, how the approval process would go on that, so. it's a good time for that. But yeah, absolutely. You got the information there. If you have any question, Stevens are,
Okay, and just drop this back off here with $600.
take it from there. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
All right.
We'll stick around and listen to your talk. Continue.
All right, I will close the public comment at 6:14.
Jesse's on the way.
Okay,
I thought it was next week.
I did too, I swear. That's,
I know.
I put it down in my, I missed the meeting last night. But it's just me being me, so that's all.
There he is. So we'll talk really slow.
All right, well, the next thing is communications, and there's some good information in there to take a look at for the township draft meeting, which it did show the votes on the planning commission and everything, and looks like everyone there seems to be happy with what we're doing, or at least you want to have it to worry about trying to find others. But everything with that. And also for the ZBA, and then also several other things going on there.
Leave that room.
We almost all thought it was next week too.
I did. Just up to communications and just starting the unfinished business. Sand mining and ponds is the first of the two things to talk about tonight. So it looks, Stephen, from this, it looks like everybody kind of has that 1 acre, roughly about the 1 acre that is able to be done administratively as far as approvals. That seems pretty reasonable.
Are you talking about the averages of other townships?
Yeah, like if you read through some, yeah, I think Muskegon Township requires full special land use approval.
I'm all over the board on what parcel size is required, what percentage of the parcel size, how many cubic yards, setbacks. There's even one that makes it really complicated called about the sharing of a pond, I guess a pond that would reside in two individual pieces of property. But these may have been created based on circumstances at the time.
It really helps to get those, so thank you for that, to see the different.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we tabled this a month ago. It's like, there's a lot of consideration. There's, lakes, rivers, streams, drains.
Lot coverage.
Yeah,
You guys know what the distance is from a structure? You guys have to have a pond, how far a pond to a structure, like a house?
what I'm speaking of are, Stephen went out and researched what other townships have. And I'm reciting a few examples. We don't really have a standard. That's why we're discussing this tonight.
This doesn't necessarily have any specific distance of a man-made pond from a structure. If it's specifically speaking to lakes, it's 100 feet if it's not in the, unless it's in that lake residential district, then it's 60. But for man-made ponds, I wouldn't apply that setback to a pond. Might be a good idea to specify if there is a setback.
Are we, since we're starting with a new ordinance, hypothetical, does this include all zones?
It would.
residential and so forth. Cause I could see a safety fence, you know? I don't know, I could make this really complicated. There was a neighborhood with a lot of kids and now you got a 10-foot deep, 8-foot deep, you know, I don't know. We try to keep it simple
There are,
in the beginning.
that's why the sloping requirements are intended for that, to prevent people from falling in.
Slope, you were saying?
Yes, so a slope has to be,
Yeah.
A fence often gives a false sense of security. Parents think, oh, the neighbor's pond is fenced, so I don't really have to worry about my kids, and then they end up drowning, so.
Yeah.
Fences are frowned upon by insurance companies usually too, because they want it to be more of a natural body of water instead of like a pond. Like, once you dig it, they want it to become part of the land, I guess, and
You think most ponds are created because someone needs the sand or the fill as opposed to a nice little body of water in the backyard?
I think at residences, it's typically because they want a body of water. Unless it's a new build, then they're probably looking for sand.
Yeah, sorry, half and half maybe. Some people want it for materials, some people just want fish in your backyard,
Ducks.
I guess.
I
You
can
know?
see ducks.
Is there any stipulations with ponds as far as like distance from the local drain or county drain, like the Anderson or the Ride drain that's out here?
Yeah, one of these townships addresses that.
that's, Laketon says if it's within 500 feet of a drain,
Yeah.
it needs special land use approval.
I think the county drain commissioner's
I
office
think the
has some
drain commissioner
guidance
does
on that, and I think it's 500 feet.
That
Because
might
the
be
pond in
where-
our house is within 500 feet of whatever drains next to us. It's nothing, they don't really do anything, they just mark it on file or whatever, and you have to pay them. And they just want your
That's what it's all about.
$250, I think.
One of them talks about, minimum setback, property line structure, well or septic system. That all makes sense. And public road or easement, that's.
Our kind of our ceiling is 200 square feet surface or greater. So is that what, we're trying to, if we gave you the 1 acre,
What's 200 square feet just requires a permit, and there's no cap on the size of a pond
Currently, right.
currently.
We're calling this sand mining and ponds. Those terms to me are
It should be two separate things.
two separate things, really.
Yeah, and I think they were combined for discussion, it's just the
I think he started with just,
raised, just at what point does making a residential pond
Yeah.
lead into sand mining? Is it somebody removes 1 cubic yard or somebody removes 10,000, 20, 30? What's
right,
the,
so there's a clear
you know,
definition
is there something that, I would like a clear definition.
Or is
So I
what
know
there,
where my
and or,
jurisdiction ends.
I just don't wanna make an ordinance that encourages people to stockpile stuff, like haul it out. If you're gonna dig it, get it off, it's an eyesore when you've got these huge, we shouldn't be encouraging people to be afraid to haul the material offsite.
right. That's in the beautification clause.
Like in your case, do you have any idea right now of how many cubic yards you'd have to bring in?
I need 30,000 yards. Or, I'm sorry, probably 3 to 5,000 yards of sand. So a pond like that would probably be half an acre, 3/4 an acre, depending on how deep I dig it. I mean, I could buy it, but I can dig it cheaper than I can buy it. I think it's going for what, $10 a yard now, delivered? Somewhere around there. From like White Lake Excavating. So, yeah, it'd just be cheaper for me to dig it. It'd take a lot of trucks to put in 5,000 yards of sand.
We were speaking of,
Oh,
people
looking at.
during public comment, he's looking at having on this roughly 30 acres.
Yeah.
He wants to make that zone commercial. And he'd have to bring in sand, so that would be where the pond sand would be used for.
Where's this at?
Just down from the gas station, on Russell.
Oh,
Right where it says GIS is roughly the intersection of Russell and Riley Thompson. So Tuttle's building that house,
yeah.
that's what the new construction is, so it's right next to that.
Okay.
Gas station, so I'm lost.
Green canopy,
That's Russell.
right next to the highway.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think of that as
Whitehall Road, I don't know why.
The new house next to Tuttle's, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Well, I mentioned this last time that I definitely don't want to put anything in the ordinance about how many cubic yards are removed, because until that's part of, until they teach zoning administrators how to exactly measure that, I think you're just setting everyone up in the township for failure. It's easier to do square footage or something, but and honestly, when you're talking about cubic yards, it doesn't really matter it shouldn't matter to the township how deep the pond is. So square footage is fine. Cubic footage I don't really care about. Like Ravenna Township, that's about as vague as you can be. Removal of material to establish features of the land or to enhance other characteristics of the land is considered commercial mining.
Or US 31B.
That's not vague at all.
Okay.
One person's enhancement of the characteristics are not necessarily someone else's.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything like that for sure. Nice and simple and easy to understand.
And that's
On the corner.
why we're having the conversation, is so I know specifically.
Don't put that in.
Because this is.
Don't put that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, cubic yards is the only metric that I see in other zoning ordinances. And I think that's,
That's right.
Doesn't mean we have to do it.
no, it doesn't.
I think a lot of the clarification though, I think we're looking for is, so like, right now, there's a whole section on, sand mining and, especially for sand mining in a mine plan and blah, 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 and all this stuff, right? But then, what if you turn around and just say, well, I'm just digging a pond for 40 acres for however long I feel like it, because I can dig a pond. I'm not mining sand, I'm digging a pond.
Which is why the one has it, construction of a pond is limited to.
So
a
that's kind of
90-day
where it gets
period.
kind of gray, I guess, it leaves a little bit open to interpretation, I guess, for Steve, as far
Yeah,
as
that's, so the thing that was the grayest is
some clarity.
where it says through open pit mining methods. So is digging a pond for residential
Right.
use end goal and removing that soil, is that open pit or
So we
Yeah,
need,
mining methods.
do we need some sort of distinction to describe each type? You know, the Nugent versus the small entrepreneur, whatever,
Yeah.
residential property owner.
You know, it could be something as simple as saying, you know, a pond not to exceed this size. The construction of a pond not to exceed this size doesn't constitute sand mining. But anything larger would. For the removal of material in connection with this.
Right, there's different options like that.
That's a good place to start.
Are we staying with the minimum 5 acre lot before you can dig a pond? Is that the?
We don't actually have a minimum size for when you can start digging. You could have a 1 acre lot and if you want to build a,
Oh, 200 square foot, well, you can build whatever you want.
You wanna build a-
10 square foot pond if you want to.
well, anything under 200 square feet doesn't need approval. And I think
Right.
that's meant, you know, if you wanted a koi pond or something in your garden,
Yeah, that makes sense.
you don't need to get involved.
So would you want to put it in the pond section as to up to a certain point is considered a pond, anything larger than that is sand mining? Is that kind of what we're?
Well, if you're constructing a, 2-3 acre pond and you can keep the soil on your property, then you're not
That makes sense
Moving
to
it off,
me if
yeah.
somebody was,
the property.
you know,
But if you're
Had 100 acres, they want to dig a 10 acre pond so they can fill their site by 3 feet.
So is it the removal then? That's the
Kind
question?
of becomes the
Yeah.
key.
Then you're starting to encourage people to just stockpile it on their land. Like, I need this, I'm gonna dig a pond because I wanna bring the deer in or whatever, but I don't wanna get a sand mining permit, so I'm just gonna stack this mountain and I'm gonna cover it with
Yeah.
wildflower mix to stabilize
But we're
it.
already covered with that because it says you have to level it at a height no greater than 3 feet above the grade of the surrounding land. So they can't just pile it up 20
Yeah,
feet
so you
high.
can't have it more than 3 feet tall.
That's already,
Where the grade was.
we already have that.
So you can spread it 3 feet all over like they did down on Whitehall Road. All those plateaus that you have down there, that's why they
Yeah.
did that, because they didn't wanna get a sand mining permit.
Where's that?
Right by the industrial park. That huge lot that they clear cut like
Has the-
20 years ago, yes. And they have all these plateaux that people ride their dirt bikes on.
Oh, no,
Right next
that's
to-
all,
right next to the
that's
road.
all, that, they didn't do it, that's all aggregate and topsoil that they hauled in.
Extra.
'Cause they bought it from us.
Well, some of
Yeah, I
it's
know what you're
sand.
talking
Yeah,
about.
they hauled in,
It's different,
a
it's in
massive
the
amount of
industrial
gravel,
park. There are
topsoil,
those,
screen
it's like
topsoil.
the surface of the moon.
Yeah, no, they hauled in a whole bunch of gravel there like ahead of time and then they never did nothing. They were gonna build a church or something there, she bought it.
On the right-hand side of the drive, the industrial drive there.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
it's been there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
John, you were ready to expound something. I could feel it.
I got nothing.
I'm absorbing the opinions of others.
I didn't even read all this other stuff yet.
That's where we
That
were
probably
last
next
month.
So the stuff, it's a question, things to kind of look at then would be size, removal. Anything else that, what are the things we want to look at, make this
Especially removal, if you wanna measure removal based on size instead of cubic yards.
How would you go about measuring cubic yards? Like, what is your specific procedure for that?
Honestly, I would make the applicant,
Promise you?
well, I would
That
make
they
them
won't?
I would make them demonstrate, and I can,
A drawing of the pond or
You know,
something.
drawing of the
Okay,
pond,
It's an acre,
like,
it's
is
got
it,
this.
you know, we've got the depth. I understand it's gonna be variable at certain points. No, you provide your calculations.
That's not easy to do for people who don't have specialty software.
Yeah.
The
Especially an average homeowner would never be able to tell you the cubic foots that they're removing, so they'd have to then
But
either
the
hire
average-
somebody or.
But the average homeowner is likely gonna hire an excavator that should be able to.
hopefully. The operator of that equipment will have something to say about that.
Let's try counting the scoops.
Not to
Oh, I thought that bucket was smaller than it really is.
It's not, I don't think it's meant to be an exact, you're allowed 10,000, but you're at 10,001.
I know, but we have to plan for the future, and not everybody at the township feels that way as the years go, prior years and as the years go on, like, oh, it's black and white, it's in this book, so I'm gonna,
Yeah,
so.
that's why I think where it's at, a lot of it's 500 to 1,000. Where it's, I think that the intent behind that is saying you can remove a little, but not a lot.
Did we come up with last month, I mean, cause I wasn't here, of course, that we were gonna okay mining in all districts, I'm guessing?
Well, that's part of this too, but
Okay,
Yeah.
last month we did decide that all of us were in support of that.
I don't think that'd be
You
reasonable
tabled it.
myself.
We read
Right,
your
but as far
comments.
as all,
Your
as far as
comments.
all districts, I mean,
We had your comments read into kind of what we were talking, and that's kind of what,
Maybe get the lake residential.
oh. Right, you want that one. Yeah, yeah, so that makes sense. I mean,
Maybe a way to do this would just outline the elements that you want to capture, the size, the percentage if it's relative to the size of the property. The setbacks, including property line, septic, drains. And, then we can shape that ordinance around whatever those those agreed to elements are.
there are
we got
setbacks.
setbacks from lot lines.
It's
So
those
those-
4-8
Those should be
and
high.
4-9 in the. This is what we're kind of starting with, but we have to include, so he can actually, we could give him up to an acre like they do in several others, and he could be the one to make that administratively. So you wouldn't have to come
Okay.
to us to
I
be
got
able to get something like that. And in their case, what they were saying is I remember yours, 3/4 of an acre or half an acre or something like that.
Yeah, depending on how deep you dig it and your slope and
So for
whatnot.
him, he would go to,
Yeah,
he wouldn't need to come to a planning commission meeting to.
right. I got you.
larger-
That would actually need to be on the site plan review. Since it's commercial. But if it were residential, that would be.
Correct. That's right.
Is there anywhere that it says you can't have more than one pond on a parcel?
No,
No,
As long as each one of them's under 200 square feet, they're good.
Oh, I get where you're
if you
going.
don't wanna, if you don't wanna have to get a permit, but then they'd have to be,
That is such a good idea. Just dig a bunch of little.
200 square feet is like nothing.
there's gotta be.
Hey, get you some sand
No.
though. And it's square feet, so you can just dig it like 40 feet deep, straight down, slope your sides a little tiny bit, have the middle just be like.
I think it'd be reasonable to say that's not going to be an attractive feature of the site.
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
If
But
it's
it's
possible,
specifically
something like
for
that.
I didn't realize there was a.
Seems like it would save.
So the sand mining section was clearly written by 12 attorneys. So really, you're trying to update the pond section 4.19, because this sand mining is unbelievable. Like everything we require
What we have,
really
we
don't
wanna keep it.
follow through much on, so.
We just want to
Change the
go this.
definition too.
I think
Say,
what we have is good and simple.
does constitute, this does constitute this.
So you wanna clarify what a sand mine and a pond are, and then maybe
Clarify.
update the pond thing a little bit with,
Right.
we'll update both sections with what the definition is.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just, I believe one of those ratio displays.
oh, yeah,
Then considering his example, and since he owns, if he did get that rezoned, he owns that, so I mean, it's not off property, correct? I mean, that's not gonna create an issue.
No, it would.
So I mean, I just wanna make
Site
sure.
plan review, one of the standards is if more than 1,000 cubic yards is moved off-site, then you need to provide haul routes and other things.
Were you saying because he's got two different zones?
Because it'd be a split parcel.
So if he had
You'd have
two,
two
he has
parcels.
one
I just don't want it to be
commercial and
some
one
stupid little thing.
ag, would you need, could you move it from commercial to ag or ag to commercial?
Since they're touching
Since it's
still.
two, is it border? He's the same owner.
It's the same property.
I
Same
believe
order
so.
though?
It just popped in my head, just one.
It's the same property, so.
So, people that have larger properties that like to dig a small pond and have it shared by 2 or 3 properties. Under the current zoning ordinance, you couldn't split. You couldn't
Do
do
that
that.
because of the
Split it.
setback.
Yeah, you couldn't split it and then dig because of the setback, but if you dug it, it's a bit of a gray area as to whether or not you can split it through the middle of the pond. You know, one ordinance I saw has provisions for that where you can dig on the border of the properties as long as there's
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
put in.
There's one right there.
Yeah, there are plenty in the township
You
already.
can see it, it's on like 6 different parcels.
Yeah, that's that central and
Yep,
Bard.
Bard,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any kind of like record of, like, let's say the last 10 ponds that somebody, came forward and said, I want to build, or any kind of record of existing pond? Like, cause that's the other thing too, is whatever we do, we don't want to make a bunch of non-conforming ponds out of this. I don't know if that would, I don't know, it might be good to look at what's there already to make sure that like what we're doing is in keeping with how people would actually use it. Does that make sense?
I think if we don't do anything with the setbacks, we wouldn't be increasing any nonconformities or creating any new ones. Ponds that are already built would have to go through the approval process, so there's no nonconformities there.
Like if there's just a standard, like this is the size that everybody wants, typically between these ranges, like you might be able to just say, like you can administratively approve this, and that would fit, let's say 80% of them or whatever.
Yeah. I think I've measured quite a few ponds in the township. Very rarely do I see one that's more than an acre to an acre and a half. Sometimes you'll get larger ponds, 2 acres, but very rarely are they more than 2.
I guess I'm still confused because if you're digging a pond, you don't have to do anything. And if you're sand mining, which is the same thing, I'm sorry, you have to do there's 3 pages of stuff that you have to do, and hours and everything. So wouldn't it just make sense to join the sand mining and the ponds? Because I'm sure there's lots of people who don't want someone digging a pond in their residential area in the middle of the night. I mean, there's hours of operation and all kinds of things. So
Wouldn't the
you're
noise,
just saying homeowners don't or if you're digging a pond, you don't abide by it. If you're digging a sand mine, you do? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why you'd like a definition, because like, what's the difference between a pond? I'm digging a 2-acre pond, it's not a sand mine. What's a sand mine?
Guess it's intent to sand mine, I mean, your intent on.
Sand mines aren't very common.
Yeah.
It's more likely that it's either a property owner wants a pond or even an excavating company approaches a property owner who wants a pond, like. Mining is not common. I mean, we do have a couple in the township, but
That's more of a lake. See it?
yeah,
But the Nugent one?
Dave and I have seen Nugent, and I'd say it's a lake.
well, even the one they're doing on automobile is supposed to be 20 acres when it's done. So that's not really a pond.
Acre 1 to 3, right?
Don't believe it is currently, but the reclamation plan it will be.
Casey's right, though, we should definitely separate the two. In most cases, they're really not mining, they're just relocating what sand is already on their property. Not for resale.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the sand mining section that I could see you possibly being good to put in a pond. I mean, as far as, you know, your plans, it's, sand mining requires a lot of things. You to tell you what you're gonna do with all the topsoil and overburden and how you're gonna stabilize the soil and things like that. I also think if it might help to on the pond application, because there's an application for a pond?
Yes.
Because I think it's important to tell homeowners who may not know that if they disturb a certain amount of soil, they need a county permit too. I mean, we're trying, in some of the things we're doing, we're trying to educate people to help them before they get into trouble. And right now, there's nothing in the pond. If you want a pond at your house, you're reading through the zoning ordinance and you may not realize, depending on how big your pond is, do you tell everybody who wants a pond that they may need to get a county permit?
Usually I do.
Okay, that's good.
I think it's 1 acre or more.
Correct, yeah.
Same those 16 days.
I mean, we don't need to put it in the ordinance. I'm just saying, maybe on the application, we tell people what the county requires.
So I guess one of these things we're talking about, I think is already covered, I just need after just reading this again, 1635A. For a definition of mining. Parcel land utilized for removal or extraction of sand, gravel, rock fragments, soil, or organic soils by open pit methods for sale or use off the premises. So I don't care if you dig a 1/4 acre pond, it's for use off the premises. Now that's sand mining.
You're mining,
That's not just digging a pond.
right?
If it's for use on the premises, that takes you out of it, right? So that's pretty clear already, I think.
Well, but it's not, it should be in the pond section too then.
Yeah, so just
It
saying,
could
you know,
be,
any
yeah.
removal of soil
Right.
is open pit mining. Just.
I mean, it's already there, that's the way
Just
we,
making it
that's the
clear.
way it's done.
However, depending on the direction you go, if you're gonna say that, then suddenly you're making it very difficult for homeowners to dig a pond. Because then suddenly, depending on, I guess, what size we decide, they are then subject to sand mining, which is all these pages. So I just wanna be careful before we do anything. We have to be happy that homeowners may be subjected to all this legal terminology that's in this book.
What did that, I guess what did the last thing say, that with the intent to use off premises?
For sale or use off premises.
The definition is it's for
And
sale
so-
or use off the premises.
So they would be digging a pond because they're using it there. But if they have too much, then suddenly they're sand mining. So you can quickly go from one to the other.
Could fix that by a certain size allowed by the square footage of the lot. Then you know they have enough adequate room to disperse the sand on the lot, it doesn't have to leave. Versus,
So technically, yeah, if somebody doesn't wanna keep their sand on their, if they're digging a pond, they don't wanna keep the sand on there, they want it trucked off there, that's considered sand mining?
But if you're spreading it on, say you end up with too much because you overdug the pond and you're spreading it, once you disturb over an acre of land, by putting the sand there, now you have to get a county soil and erosion permit. So all these things to be aware of.
What if you just ban ponds?
Hey.
Well, it's a good spot for ponds.
Yeah, you got all these huge parcels.
It's so low.
Yeah.
Ponds and mud bugs.
You just have to scratch the surface and you have a pond in Dalton Township, so.
Yeah.
So if we include that,
So I mean, that's already defined, yeah.
so if the definition for that is also included in ponds, is that what you're saying? You'd want to include.
I'm just saying that was one, I mean,
That read.
It is already defined,
because
yes.
it's already defined, right? And that was just one of the questions I wrote down was, we're gonna look at the size and look at cases of removal.
Mhm.
Well, the removal's already handled, so I guess why change it?
The problem is sand mining has to come to the planning commission. And honestly, we're just gonna start being inundated with 1-2 acre ponds that could be administratively approved, but now they're gonna have to pay to see us. And if they don't want to keep the soil, which we shouldn't be forcing people to keep the soil. If you want a pond on your property, you shouldn't have to keep the soil. You shouldn't. I can think of right now a homeowner who's digging a pond because they want a pond on their beautiful large acreage, and now suddenly because they don't want to keep the sand, we're calling them a sand mine. No, they're just digging a pond, and now we're making it complicated.
Well, usually if you dig a pond, if you're high and dry, if you're super high and dry, you're usually not gonna dig a pond because you can't go deep enough to find the water, am I correct?
Yeah, you could end up having to remove a massive amount of dirt just to even get to the
They're
water.
lined with plastic or whatever, so most of the time, I feel that homeowners dig a pond because they need to fill sand. It's cheaper to dig a pond than it is to truck it in there. And most of the time, like you said, if you got overburden, so I wanted 5,000 yards and I accidentally dug 6,000 yards. Extra 1,000 or 2,000 yards is not hard to spread out in a little area. I mean, it takes a lot of dirt to raise property up. And an extra 1,000 yards or 2,000 yards of move to spread is not that much. It might actually benefit the homeowner if they just raise up a little bit higher too.
Or mosquito.
A lot of people are not doing ponds at the same time as construction though. So they're just digging a pond. They bought a new parcel or something and they just are digging a pond, but their house is already there or something like that. Or the thing that brought this all up is a guy who wants to dig a pond and he does eventually want to put some home sites on it or something, but that's not what he wants to do right now. He just wants to dig a pond. So he would have nowhere to go with his soil, because he doesn't have any house plans or anything. So he would be considered a sand mine. Even though it's a pond for the future.
But he's not transporting it off the property though, is he?
Yeah, yes, because he has no use for it on the property.
You can have like a stipulation, how many yards you have to transport off the property before you consider mining, like 10,000.
No,
Not currently, there's not.
not currently.
We don't even have to have an occupancy building on the land to dig a pond?
No,
So it's vacant.
yeah.
There is one of the example ordinances I looked at gave a one-time removal. You had so many days to,
It was 90 days.
yeah. There's,
Ravenna.
30 days in Cortland Township, specified a 30-day window for removal. To 1,000 yards. That was up to 1,000 yards.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a 4.9 acre pond is going to take a considerable amount of time to remove all that soil. Whereas a quarter acre pond not going to require as much time.
If you have a homeowner who digs a pond and then wants to dig it a little, he has to, every time he wants to add on to his pond, he comes back for another pond permit? Or,
Correct, if it's in addition to what was already approved.
okay. I know people also
It
who have,
doesn't say technically.
say that, but the person I know is not coming back for it.
Or you just dig another pond, you just keep going with the
Yeah,
little
I mean,
ponds.
I don't wanna encourage that at all.
It's Fruitland has a cumulative total of all ponds. So if you had one acre pond and then added another 1 acre pond, you'd have a total of 2 acres.
Well, there's a reason why, like, I'm looking at the sand mining requirements and, everything, like not wanting to burden the homeowner with sand mining regulations, but at the end of the day, even if it's for residential use, if they wanna build like some 4 acre, 5 acre pond, it's still, like, that's gonna be a lot of trucks coming and going and like, they, whether it's residential or not, it's kind of in that sand mining realm. And I mean, like, if somebody wanted to do a 1 acre pond, what do we care, right? Go in there and do their thing. Remove the sand. I mean, but how much? 1 acre pond, that'd be a lot of trucking, right?
If you were hauling it off, it could be, depending on the depth. Just on site, no, it's,
So I'm trying to understand like where the line would be to where even if it was for residential use, if they're gonna truck it off, like where these things would be beneficial to apply, regardless of whatever constraint that might put on the homeowner.
Yeah, 'cause isn't that happening on automobile right now or something like that? Is road getting, they're really logging that.
The pond's been done for
They're
a long
logging.
time.
There's also the pond.
That's the person that came with the 5 acre pond thing that you're.
No, that's-
That's somewhere else.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
further, that's on Riley Thompson, I think, like
Okay.
at Lawrenson or somewhere. back
okay.
there.
But yeah, 'cause I've heard about that, and, the daycare down there or whatever.
Oh,
It's like it's going down the road, up like 4-wheel drive.
And that's
There
the reason why I would like some clarity on it.
Yeah, it's gonna mess up a
My
road like
decision
that.
was, it's incidental to the residential use. And it's not going to be an ongoing, continuous dig. They had 90 days to remove anything. And there was a specific deadline. So it wouldn't be a continuing use, no stockpiling.
Yeah.
So that's essentially why I'd like some clarification is it or is it not?
The pond section is
I don't wanna have to
extremely
make
big.
that decision.
The sand, so technically, every single thing, that's what I guess, I don't see how you could approve any pond at all right now, the way it sits, with any soil that left the property. Because if you go to the sand mining section, it talks about anything that leaves the property is a sand mine, anything, for any size pond.
That's why we wanna make a size that they can allow that, I guess.
So
Cause right now it can't, cause that's always been that way.
So really, just the pond section needs some help. It needs some clarification of whether we're gonna allow anything to be hauled off site before it's declared a sand mine, but then we have to change the sand mining section to say anything removed over, like, I mean,
Excluding ponds under,
right, because right now, all these, well, when all these examples that you gave us, does any of these townships say anything about the soil leaving the property?
Most of them have the 500 to 1,000 cubic yard requirement.
Oh yeah, Laketon 600. Okay. And then,
Yeah, so everybody else has specific numbers.
that says on a lot of 1 acre or less. Larger acreage, then it doesn't have to leave. There must be something else we're making the clause.
oh yeah, if it's a 2 acre parcel, can you just go crazy? I don't think that's written very well.
Which section was that?
In Dalton Township, it says a maximum of 600 cubic yards is allowed to leave the site while constructing a pond on a lot of 1 acre or less. What happens on a parcel that's 2 acres or more, or 1.2 acres or more? You can just go crazy?
I would assume that they won't allow any. I
That
think
must
they
be in
put that
another section. They must
I
have,
think they put that in because so they could allow some relief, haul some sand off.
so they probably have a sand mining section that then,
Yeah.
oh, okay. That's just-
I think they assume they want constructing a pond or other.
That's just so poorly written. Let's not do that. Because then you're just wondering, like, okay, I have a 10 acre parcel. So how many cubic yards can I remove? Is it still 600? Or,
So are we okay with removal under certain stipulations, saying 30 days? Is the days the thing, or is it the amount that they remove? Or is it both?
most people would tell you both. Because,
I think both would be a good idea.
So say
Quantity and time, so that
1,000
nothing's
1,000
spread
cubic-
out.
1,000 cubic yards within 30 days. Or whatever, certain numbers and time. Or 600, 800. To me, again, I don't, cubic yards doesn't mean anything.
I know, it really means nothing to me either. I mean,
What does that mean, roughly truckloads?
Depends on the size truck you have.
right. It depends on if you're running tandems or if you're running super
Well,
trains.
it's still a guideline, though, it's just a guideline, right? I mean, it's a guideline, you know, so we just gotta look at the intent, right? The intent is, you know, like I say, you know, like the campground over there that they are making the 20 acre lake, I mean, why couldn't they just say, I'm just digging a pond? I don't need to say I'm making permit, I'm just digging a pond. Well, because it's materials leaving the site, that's why. Right, so I mean, it's just the intent of it, right? And so as long as there's some kind of guideline, right? I mean, no, we're not gonna do the math and see if it's 900 yards or 1,100 yards or go count trucks or nothing like that, but some kind of a guideline. You know, we don't go out and measure houses after they're built either.
But if you're
It's
gonna
still a
tell some,
guideline.
That's true.
if you're gonna tell somebody they can have 30 days, then you don't, I think it would probably, to remove 1,000 cubic yards, you could probably do that in not that long.
Yeah, cause I mean,
I mean, that's like a,
if you give them 30 days, you got an endless train of trucks lined up for 30 days. So that's,
if you haul that with tandems, that's only 80 loads. If you're hauling it somewhere really close, you can, I mean, if your haul times are 10 minutes or so, you can clear 80 tandem loads in no time at all. So if you're gonna make it 30 days, you might as well let them remove a reasonable amount. Otherwise, make it a day or something, because
Or 2
it's
weeks
silly to
or-
tell you you have 30 days and then you have 1,000 cubic yards, which can be done in 2 days. Why give them so long if it makes no sense at all? And if we don't have a problem with people digging small ponds with pretty much no regulation, then we should just tell them 30 days and however many, way more than 1,000 cubic yards though. I mean, I don't know, I could figure out how many cubic yards are in a 1 acre pond. I can't, but I know somebody who can. And I just wanna do something reasonable. I don't wanna make this like the hardest township ever to just dig a pond.
It seems like it'd be so simple to make a chart that says if this is your lot size, this is what you're allowed. And you have 30 days to remove or level the ground after it's done. And just leave it at that. And then somebody has to make sure that they dug it properly and we're just dealing with a timeline of the window to get rid of it.
Well, and also, if you're gonna tell people they have 30 days to remove all the soil, do they have more time than that to finish the pond? To shape the banks and things like that, like.
yeah, I would think that that would be important to give more time to
Right.
finish.
So a certain time period for the removal and then You know, you want them to finish though relatively soon after the removal takes place. Otherwise, you're kind of defeating the purpose of the safety of the slopes. If you say,
Yeah.
you have 30 days to remove the material in a year to slope your banks properly, then you're making a dangerous situation for that time period.
Yes, I think the banks should be sloped as soon as possible.
Yeah,
So and make the removal not to exceed X amount before your sand mining.
I just looked this up and I just Googled it. I don't know
Thank you.
how reliable this is, but it is interesting. If you take a 1 acre pond, 200 foot by 200 foot, and dig 10 feet deep, you come up with approximately 15,000 yards of material. Every depth below that in 1 foot increments equals approximately 1,500 more yards of dirt need to be removed. Or whatever that's worth.
that's worth a lot, thank you very much. Which, all the more reason why 1,000 cubic yards is kind of silly. You're basically having them dig a mud puddle.
How many train loads is
Say that again, what was that,
15,000
what did I say, 200 by 200 what?
200 by 200.
10 feet deep.
Yeah.
It's 15,000 yards.
And so what they're calculating right there is just a square cube hole, which you have to slope it, so you're gonna be roughly at least half that, maybe more, by the time you meet the sloping requirements. That would be just a square box.
Would you also have more taken off on the outside to go down to the surface? Because it's measured at the surface of the water.
Yeah, so you could have, yeah. Yeah. It looks like everybody pretty much says, 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 are saying 1 acre is reasonable size. Or administratively approving it.
So you go, that rule, 1 acre. Administrative, then what is the removal stipulation? Is there a time or is it just an amount?
both?
I think your neighbors would appreciate putting a time limit on it. You're gonna keep the peace in neighborhoods.
Like you said, if you go 30 days, that's a lot of sand.
Could be.
I mean, it depends who's gonna
Exactly.
build I guess, if someone really wants to twist sand mining into pond, I mean, that's a lot of extra effort to go through for.
You're moving 30,000 yards off from a property. It's 10.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty significant.
That's true. So what do you think timeline?
I guess if you're getting that big, you're getting to when where it says, all these other townships get a site plan review, that kind of thing. In acre pond, you're not gonna get that much. Right? So,
Do you limit the size of the pond? Anything over a certain amount requires? Or are we good with just saying 1 acre administrative? And we need to add the size. Size, take care of them, the removal and the time period. The amount.
Like Portland's there is pretty simple, right? One-time extraction removal up to 1,000 may be approved administratively. Removal will take place in 30-day window specified on the permit. That looks like a pretty simple one to me, unless, which I don't think it'd be bad to increase that to an acre. Sometimes people need a lot of material. Dalton is pretty wet.
Yeah, it's pretty simple and cut and dry.
So ponds 1 acre or less.
Less than 1 acre? Maybe.
Just include an acre, let's not split hairs.
Well, because
So
the next
pond-
one is, and it says,
You're gonna see a lot of.
special land use approval is required for ponds
Over,
over 1 acre.
yeah, correct.
So that would be, just so we have it one or the other, it's either under an acre or over an acre, and I think over an acre makes it. And then one-time extraction and removal of up to 1,000 cubic yards may be approved administratively. Removal must take place within a 30-day window specified on the permit. And then it has the setbacks and everything else in there, which. we already
Our
have
setbacks
this.
are already good.
Yeah, we're good on that, so we don't, we could just stay with that.
I think it should be at least like 10,000 cubic yards.
I think 10,000 is a good number to stay consistent.
That, well, cause I mean, if you
The number
consider the
is-
slope and everything, then I think you could probably get 10,000 acres out of an acre pond for 10,000 yards.
If somebody was sand mining for commercial purposes, would they even waste their time with smaller amounts like that, or would they be wanting to?
Right.
Like, is this gonna create some loophole that get used? Or what, like, are we worrying about something that isn't even gonna be a problem?
Maybe 1 or 2, like one pond this year, 1 pond last year. So it's not super common. Maybe 2 ponds last year.
That we know of.
That we know of.
That are documented.
So go with that, with the 1 acre, you think it replace it the half. And then the one-time material extraction of up to 10,000 cubic yards may be approved administratively. Removal must take place within that 30-day window specified on the permit. We already have the setbacks. Sound like a winner?
Yeah. We let Stephen distill this and we'll table it till next month.
And we're just discussing it anyway.
Reasonable. Does that sound like something you're looking for? At least the general direction we're going with that?
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Bake it a little bit.
And then we'll have to change the definition of sand mining.
I don't. I
Is
think if
this-
we have one-time removal.
Curious, like what, if you were gonna like mine sand for money,
I think if we just take out open pit mining methods and just say removal of anything, period. Open pit mining methods was the,
being interested, right? So-
Yeah, But if you're letting somebody dig a pond that's and remove the soil for 1 acre or less, then you can't tell them in 1635 that they can't remove anything if they. Yeah, that's, yes.
yeah.
So just, we'd have to change that to indicate
Unless
removal, if it's over an acre.
Time at 10,000.
removal of.
Yeah, it will. It'll be everywhere.
People like, because what is the cost for compliance for a sand mine? You know, let's just say it's $1,000, which it's probably a lot more than that, but like, let's just say it's $1,000. Who's to say we're not gonna like have a bunch of people going, hey, I'll pay you $500. I'll put this pond on your property, you know, to skate out of being in compliance with sand mining, and we'll just have a bunch of 1 acre ponds all over the place. You know what I mean?
But so first of all, you have to cold call homeowners, like, hey, can I dig a pond on your property? And then it's not,
Well, if the difference of being in compliance and having some loophole, I'm just like, as a business owner,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this going,
Follow the
man,
money.
maybe I need to do this. But,
it's,
Going
it's,
up to a 10,000 yard extraction to be allowed without a permit would highly encourage me to buy a 2 acre lot, dig a 1 acre pond on it and leave.
Mhm.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Buy a 2 acre lot for $8,000 and pull 30 grand worth of material out of it and get the road.
I think, should we then specify, home on the lot?
right,
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's what I'm saying is
It's not a
that
bad idea.
it would make sense to just then go to homeowners, be like, hey, have you ever thought about a pond? I'll pay you, $1,000 or $500 to come in here and I'll make you a pond.
I just don't think a lot of people the people who have the means to actually do a removal of 10,000 cubic yards within 30 days are not looking to go around and dig all these
Well,
1 acre ponds.
that's what I was wondering, is like, what's
Right.
the threshold of like being interested in a property or like
And
this
it's
situation?
not like you could just hire, oh, I have a backhoe, I'll dig this for you, because you'd never make the 30-day period. And I mean, we could make it less than 30 days. I'm curious. I need to do,
I wouldn't want to make it less than 30 and make it hard for the one-man band operations that are around doing the bulk of digging basements and stuff like that, right? And they go to a project for a homeowner, and if we cut it too short because he's one guy in one dump truck, then it's kind of cuts his leg off.
I'd also be concerned about, creating a too small of a window where we just have trucks lined up.
Right.
Constantly creating traffic issues.
Right.
well, then maybe you should have to have a home there or something.
Yeah.
And that'll stop Jesse from buying all those little
It wouldn't
parcels.
just be me. It'd be every
I mean, it'd be
less
cheaper to
freak in
get,
town.
I
it's cheaper
don't-
to do
I-
a special use than do all the land
It's funny
divisions.
because Jesse's sand price is so cheap that most people just buy it and have it trucked. Because you really think there'll be a ton of people that I'm not gonna buy from McCormick's anymore, I'm gonna dig all these 1 acre ponds.
I'm not that concerned about that.
Digging a pond is
That's
not
what's
easy
cheap,
either.
but it's not, no. A lot of people
Especially
don't realize that, but a lot of people don't figure that out till afterwards. Honestly.
So then, with this guy's example, he'd have to just get a sand mining permit.
He wouldn't.
He wouldn't have to do anything because he's not
Keep it- oh,
removing
he's
it.
not removing up.
That's what we're saying. You're
That's
not
right,
picking up
that's
property.
right, that's right.
'Cause that's a whole different ball of work. That's a whole different ball of wax, right? When you line up trucks and this and
Oh,
that
yeah.
and everything else, whole
Yeah.
different deal. If you just need the sand on your property, then by all means, do what you want to do with your property.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, okay.
It's the
That's-
removal.
I just make it, yeah, I just thought of that, like, if we're gonna add this home thing, but that's for removal, correct?
That's,
Is that what we're talking about? It's only for
Yeah.
removing,
Mhm.
you need to have a home on it?
Correct.
but even that, I mean.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I think that's getting complicated because then you have to change the sand mining thing again, because right now you don't have to have a home there to be able to mine sand, but then if you're gonna dig a pond to mine sand, now you have to have a home. That doesn't make sense either. You wanna keep the volume leaving the property without a permit low, and that's simple.
Then we don't need to raise it to an acre. If we're not gonna let them take 10,000 yards, then you don't wanna make it an acre, cause that's just like, you can do an acre, but it's 1,000 yards. You might as well make it like a
But
quarter
that
acre.
guy needs to dig 5 acres to get enough sand for his property, so we don't.
Yeah, but if he's not removing it, then it doesn't matter.
I think if we just leave the area of the pond out of it. And just make it the
volume?
volume. Cause
But
that,
then you're relying on the one thing that you
Yeah.
can't really tell.
and that's,
Yeah.
Well, what would you say, not to exceed an acre?
because if we say 1 acre. So, well, what about the person who wants to do a, 1.5 acre, but he's gonna keep all this dirt on his property. He's gonna raise a good portion of it so he can have a walkout basement.
I see what you're saying. You also probably wanna clarify, like, if you're keeping all that on your, cause we're just talking basically about sand mining and what constitutes sand mining. But what if you have what if you have a larger pond, but you're not hauling anything off?
We have a smaller lot and you wanna take, maybe 10,000 off, but you're still gonna keep some. You just don't have a lot to accommodate all of it.
Well, what about, I'm curious what everybody thinks about Ravenna, how they talk about lot coverage. How do you feel about a pond being included in lot coverage?
Seems like it should play a part in it.
That was my first thought too, is not sure,
Would it count towards lot coverage, or would it just be the
like,
lot coverage? The area of the pond can't exceed the lot coverage. Like the lot coverage times the lot, or
Okay.
10% of the lot. This ag is 10%, and there are some smaller lots where that becomes an issue. Whereas in the R1 with 20%, it's not
yeah.
as much of an issue.
I don't know if we're getting a lot coverage thing, 'cause that's gonna change a lot of.
Yeah.
That's gonna change a lot of pieces and parts, right? Right now, the lot coverage deal is just covering hard surface, basically.
Thoughts?
I got nothing.
I would like, I don't know, if everybody doesn't care, I really would like to do some more research on this and before we, I mean, I don't know if you wanna draw something up, but I'm not even sure we're there yet.
If we start with what we now just came up with tonight and go from there the next time, maybe we. I think you're right, I don't like to put the lot coverage in there, cause I don't think that should be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like saying, oh, this property has this much in woods.
Yeah.
I think you're starting to
Right.
get a little bit too much.
Everybody comfortable with that? Table item?
I don't see a big deal with removing soil, but I don't wanna be accused of like about 16 years ago when we had someone screaming at one of the township board meetings about raping and pillaging the land. So I don't wanna get into that. I don't wanna start getting people mad about being too permissive, but
But our current ordinance, which has worked for a long, long time, doesn't allow removal of any of premises. We're just trying to give people a little wiggle room, right? Give them a little wiggle room to say, we're, okay, yeah, you can take those guys off there, and that's fine, not considered mining operation. Right now, I know about 0. And
I
it's
know.
worked for 20 years, and hasn't been a problem
well,
like that.
do you have any idea when this 16.35 came
I
into?
ran it $10 a yard.
Before my time.
It might have been in with the original ordinance.
Because nobody follows that, by the way. There are, I can probably name at least 35 parcels right now that are removing soil from their premises from a pond without any sort of sand mining permit. And yeah, it's a small pond, but technically by this definition right here, they are mining sand. So clearly we're not really doing much about it anyway.
And that's something that's
Red flag.
hard to catch
Yeah,
as well.
yep.
I'm anti-mosquito.
That's a good
If you
point.
do your pond right, it helps to reduce the mosquitoes drastically. If you can grow your dragonfly population, which we do at the campground, we up one, the
Basically,
whole.
they're getting rid of mud and making clean water.
Yeah,
Spray.
and there's certain plants that dragonflies, when they come out of the water, they cling to. So if you make your pond, we have almost no mosquitoes at the campground because we have dragonflies everywhere.
So
So,
let's put a
Dragonflies are the
mosquito
key, huh?
clause in.
Yeah.
I want the mosquito clause in there.
yes, you gotta have a dragonfly habitat or no pond.
Yeah, lots of them too.
Yes,
Don't forget the bees.
but there are some ponds that are really stagnant and gross.
Do you think that's enough to start on for chewing on that one for a little bit?
Beat it to death. Good input. I learned a lot. I don't.
I wish I had Jesse's money to go and buy a bunch of parcels.
Hey,
Real
Jen.
estate's where it is, man.
I visualize a lot of quote unquote excavation companies just with their backhoe that they borrow from their uncle.
Go to Dalton.
Just
The problem is they don't have
digging
time.
it up.
A lot of one-man show, they don't have time. They're out doing projects. They're doing driveways and they're digging basements.
Rather-
And they don't have time to, within a 30-day period, dig a 1-acre pond.
And I'm just
Do you
saying
have time, Kevin?
the overall.
Are you starting to think about digging a bunch of 1-acre ponds?
I am. I mean, I don't know what the math would be, but that's exactly, my first thought was, okay, well, figure out the math of this, find somebody I can hire to, and then go pitch ponds to people in the town.
What are you gonna do with the soil?
I don't care. They
Who are you
can
gonna
do
sell
whatever
it
they
to?
want.
Where are you gonna stockpile it?
I don't know, I'd figure it out. If the money was there, I'd figure it out. Obviously, I
But
can't.
it's not, because
I don't know, I'm just saying.
those people on Automobile Road don't have anyone to sell it to. They're barely ever hauling anything out of there.
I know, I'm just.
You have to have customers to sell the sand.
I'm just thinking, if there's money in
Remember,
it,
they're
so
gonna
we'll
move
figure it out.
500,000 yards in 10 years. I sat here and said, this is never gonna happen. That's an
Maybe in
unreasonable plan.
Texas,
Oh,
but
yeah.
here we have so many trees, just, clearing the land first of all. I know.
So, yeah, we got to move on.
Well, it's been very interesting.
Whole, since the
All
whole.
right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the discussion for removal of trees and site plan review. Up and down.
Okay.
So the proposed is the removal of trees and other vegetation that do not provide screening from an adjacent residential use and has not been required by the planning commission on any previously approved site plan review.
That would be put under 17.2, which is talking about uses exempt from site plan review.
$17, $20,
17.2, it would be potentially letter F.
This is again, that situation with the property of the bank,
Yes.
right on M120 there, the old PNC Bank.
How did that come about? Did they come here to ask permission to cut trees?
Yeah, he asked me for permission, see if that was, it sounds. There's no clear cut. Either way. On one hand, it sounds like anything you do, the ordinance is geared towards anything you do on a commercial property needs site plan review. But there's also,
Yeah.
it's
Jesse,
not specifically addressed.
we're talking about that PNC that closed.
Yeah, I read the thing from last month.
Okay.
Right, and it was pretty clear, I don't remember where it was. It was last month's stuff you'd said, you had quoted something out of the
The 17.6B.
ordinance, but I don't remember what it was. It said something about the development of commercial properties show natural features, blah, blah, blah.
Ask for commercial surrounded by residential, you expect.
That was kind of the general sentiment of the board. last month.
Okay,
And just out of an abundance of caution, I think it'd be a good idea to actually codify that.
gotcha.
These are mainly along the road though too, correct? Is that
Correct.
or not along the property line?
Yes.
I think property line should be along the road.
Does stipulate that there would be still need to, you couldn't do it for screening. That would be providing screening from an adjacent residential use, that would still need to be maintained, so. Seems to work.
Essentially, it's between, the trees are between the building and an adjacent house, then it would still need to come to the planning commission. But if it's in a commercial area that's, you're not affecting any screening, then you wouldn't need a site plan review for it. Unless the planning commission specifically approved the plan with those specific trees called out.
Yeah, so I mean, if we add that, then that's not gonna conflict with this other one, then, I mean, we'll just leave that.
Sounds good to me. Consensus, anybody feel otherwise, or? That was easy, you guys appreciate that. Now we go to new business, which is the election of a secretary for the remainder of 2022, which would that be this meeting?
That would be just for this meeting.
Okay.
So who wants to sign this month's meeting minutes?
Who is the secretary? What role does the secretary assume?
You have personal responsibility for everything we decide.
You have to sign all the minutes.
It's just basically signatures. Of all the stuff that we decide requires a signature. Like for the zoning board.
Yeah.
I get this and it comes dated, so all you have to do is sign the stuff that.
Meeting
it's the
minutes
legal-
after they're approved. I'll do it, I've got
I'm
the
not here
rules.
as recording secretary.
You know what, you're not gonna probably get a lot of people who wanna arm wrestle you for that one tonight, but we have a volunteer. If anyone, Kevin has said that he is willing to do that for tonight. See, that's like a new guy thing, I think that's it.
Right.
We need to take a vote on that. Needs to be roll
The
call.
float
Yes.
committee.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, first we will have, I will nominate Kevin.
Congratulations.
Jeez, I feel so honored.
All right, we will take a roll call vote here. Let's see, all right. Dave, yes. Jesse?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
John? Casey?
Yes.
Todd? Now, does Kevin get to vote for himself? or-
Yes.
Okay, Kevin,
Yes.
you want to be the only opposition or? All right, congratulations. All right, and then next is the elections for 2023. You need a chair,
Then we'll list them off.
Chair, vice chair, and secretary.
is a quite expansive thing. If anyone is interested in any of those, or if someone would like to make a motion to I have always said, I think really,
Fine job.
I think Jesse has done an outstanding job.
Being the vice chair. Good.
Not going the way you want. Yeah, the trustee cannot be chair.
Okay. We have, like I say,
Good anyways.
there's plenty of room for everyone to, we'll still have others here to help coach if you would like that, or if you would. I don't think this is gonna go.
I want no titles.
Go what?
No titles.
We already have positions. There's chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Steve and Steve.
I can't do it.
I think we should make everything administrative. Can we do that?
You sure?
Yeah. We're looking for volunteers
Yeah, you volunteering?
for what titles?
For any of them.
What are they?
You have chair,
Vice
vice
chair.
chair, and secretary. So we
I've
need,
had the vice chair, so I got about one meeting a year, and that's good.
that can change, man. Things can happen here, you know? I got, might be out digging my ponds all over the township.
We're gonna have to fix that. See it getting out of hand already.
John and Dave's construction has just started tonight. I don't mind but if somebody seriously has any interest at all, I am, man.
I'd like to see you stay on.
Yeah. Great job.
You do a good job. I'm learning something.
Well, in the interest of 7:34, I will say that sounds good. And for a vice chair, we have to do them individually, correct?
You can do them all in one motion.
Okay.
I'll stick with that, it's fine.
Okay.
Kevin's gonna roll on for an extra 12 months as secretary.
And signing your name, it's not that bad. It's not on your own checking account. It's
Secretary?
wonderful.
I have really shaky.
So I'm assuming you also should read the minutes before you sign them? No? That's optional?
You never know, we sneak some stuff in there.
It's encouraged that you all read them.
It's a-
Any typos or errors.
Does anyone have any interest in
That's all you
secretary?
gotta do is sign the minutes.
It's pretty.
When do these signatures take place?
Near the middle.
So like right now, tonight, you would sign the minutes, which would be a formal document from last month's meeting.
Right here and now.
Yeah.
Tonight's
Tonight,
minutes.
after we approve them, after we approve last month's minutes, you just sign them. for
I can do that. I can sign. Just don't keep me late later.
All right. We need nominations and
We would need a motion nominating.
All right, I'll make a motion to nominate Dave to chair, Jesse to vice chair, and Todd secretary.
I knew you'd be really quick with that. I had a feeling that was gonna be. All right, can we do this? This has to be roll call also?
Yes.
All right, Dave, yes. Jesse?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Casey?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And Kevin?
Yes. All right. That was the motion to adjourn.
Or
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, 7:36.
Sorry, I screwed the night up, everybody.
No, I had it down for next week.
I was on my calendar. And I told my wife today, I'm like, you better not sign this, I'll do it for next week.
I had
Because already missed
CBA
one
for
meeting.
tonight.